Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu Jitsu Show, member of the Pod Bros Podcast Network. Don't forget to go to podbros.com and find yourself a podcast you want to listen to. And don't forget to check out our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company, Tape Armor, and Rolls Gear, and find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob, and I got to interview Mr. Ewok one. He's a famous street artist and has a really just unique perspective on doing street art as well as doing jiu-jitsu. He's part of Birdman's crew. And if you remember Birdman's interview from last year at the Origin Camp, he was actually in the background giving a little, a little insight and a little additional information in the interview. So we had Birdman kind of fill in for Ewok's interview as well. So it's really interesting, and I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. And don't forget to find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com. You can like us, subscribe to us on iTunes, give us a good review, and hope you guys like this episode.
It's an artist world, and I have an image that's my art, and that's what's for the public.
Are you familiar with DUNE by Frank Herbert?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so it's like was it like the Fremen? They're like, this is the name we will call you in private, but out in public we'll call you Muad'Dib or whatever.
Muad'Dib.
Fucking love that.
They're actually redoing that. You told me that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the guy. I don't know.
Man, I don't
can't
know.
say.
Yeah. But there's actually, so that got made.
Yeah.
Jodorowsky spent years making a book, storyboard, the whole thing never got made. He's also a madman, did a bunch of crazy movies.
Yeah.
But the movie that we know of, they all clowned that version. Even though I was a kid and I loved that movie.
Yeah.
I watch it now, it's kind of cheesy. But
it's like the 83, 84 version, right?
Yeah. But the Jodorowsky's storyboard, there's like a documentary called like Jodorowsky's DUNE, and it has like this incredible illustrations. He hired all these people to do like these visuals. Never got made. The budget was too big. They took the idea and went to the guy who made it.
Yeah, was it?
Dino
De Laurentiis or something like that?
Which, I thought the movie was cool for the time, those old school special effects.
Fuck yeah, it was good. So, before we go further on our DUNE conversation, this is a Big Jiu Jitsu Show. I'm Rob. I'm joined here by Mr. Ewok one, a renowned artist in the New York City area, and Birdman, one of the baddest dudes out there, in my opinion. Not just because he could choke you unconscious, but because he's just a legit dude. So I thank you guys for taking your time out tonight to come in and talk with me about jiu-jitsu and just life in general, man.
For sure, man.
I'm a little out of breath still from that uphill run with Dean doing his best Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, yelling at me.
Where we did a wheelie in a golf cart.
Yeah.
Biggest wheelie in a golf cart
Sparks
ever.
went flying.
That's Guinness shit.
Yeah.
That was good.
So I'm actually kind of I'm a huge DUNE nerd, and like I love DUNE, like probably more than anybody should, I guess, in like some weird way. But yeah, so was it? They had like they're supposed to have Queen do the soundtrack, and like Mick Jagger was supposed to be in it,
and then we all settled for Sting, but I wasn't mad at that. Sting was in it, little cameo, running around with a knife.
Oh, that was fucking wild.
It was a good movie.
So before we get any further, Ewok, why don't you? Because our listeners, primarily BJJ people.
Sure.
Why don't you, or could you, let everybody know kind of what you do
like
and
Cliff Notes version?
Yeah, pretty much Cliff Notes.
Well, let's see. A talented artist in my youth. Tried to think ahead of that to like, what am I doing when I grow up? I guess I should go to like an art school. So I transferred from upstate New York, where I grew up, where my mother was raised. My mother raised me. Came to college in New York City, which was great for my mom, but at the same time I was like, I'm gonna be doing graffiti on the weekends in the Mecca of the world. This is what it's all about. So Monday through Friday I tried to keep my nose in the books. Friday night till like Sunday night it was just mayhem, graffiti, and getting messed up with friends. But so here I am in the college years getting a degree for the future, quote unquote, but on the weekends I'm getting a degree for the future, quote unquote. So like here I am paying all this tuition money and crap with my parents, still paying school loans off. But to be honest, like those were valuable years. I lived in New York City, and like this is the tail end of the 90s. The 90s were like the heyday, for me anyway. You could say the 80s were the heyday, depending on what generation you talk to.
Right.
The 90s were like the Wild West because there was just a lot of style involved, a lot of hard knocks mentality. It was really hard to get credit from your peers because nowadays there's like, you could take a picture of a piece and put it on Instagram or social media, and like everyone's like, oh, he's amazing, he's like the Photoshop graffiti guy. But like that did not fly in the 90s. you had to street bomb. You had to like do all kinds of. You were getting into fights. You were starting beef with people in other boroughs. You had to pay dues in graffiti, and I was fortunate to be in the tail end of the '90s in New York, doing something that I thought was fun on the weekends. I just had a love for it, but I was in school for animation, getting a degree, so it was kind of hard to split those two worlds up. But then afterward, as I stayed in New York into the 2000s, something just happened where I'm like trying to work at jobs, but the graffiti was just building this momentum to the point where I'm getting flown all over the world. I'm like packing passport books up, like going to, Berlin and Norway and Croatia and, Asia, Japan. I had shows in Japan and just traveling everywhere. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is just gonna run out. It's just a hobby. And like fast forward, I'm not known for the shit that I went to school for. I'm known like globally for this hobby that I just fell in love with as a teenager that's still here in my 40s. So at some point you gotta kind of realize, you're gonna focus on what you really love, and I'm very fortunate because a lot of people in that scene have come and gone, but there's a chain of certain people who've been around for like decades, and like everybody who's still here from when I first started, they're all fucking killing it. They're all crushing the game right now. Like their names that are like, oh, like surface level people are like, yo, you know this guy? I'm like, yeah, I've known that dude for decades. And so like there's that thing in the graffiti world that when I've gotten to jiu-jitsu, there's so many parallels to that. Like knowing he came from a generation, it's like you were doing the exact same thing in jiu-jitsu in the same time that I was doing that stuff in graffiti. Like the jiu-jitsu history stories that you hear now that people hear about, that was going on in the same like end of the 90s, early 2000s. That's a same parallel in jiu-jitsu that I was going on through graffiti. So there's always like these cool parallels that I like to hear from, the old Henzo schools and these guys talking about like above the methadone clinic and the people who came in that went on to be like UFC guys and whatnot. And like back then it was just friends and people who were coming to train, and there's so many the same parallels with graffiti, like people who went on to become like famous guys that everybody's heard of now. Your street artists, like street artists now and shit like that. But yeah, so I don't know. I got into jiu-jitsu just to stay in shape, stuff like that. I met this guy at the motorcycle shop I used to work at, and from there it was, took on a life of his own.
Nice.
I was 35, and fast forward now I'm 43, and just trying to dodge injuries. But
I think that's
really what
part,
it is.
Man.
Trying to stick with it.
So what's funny about this episode before I introduce Birdman is that like last year when we did this with Birdman on here, he's going to be on the show in a couple of days.
He's like, come on and just be in the background.
Yeah, you were on there.
Quiet. I'm laughing in the back, and opening the bottles and hearing this. Here we are a year later, you gotta
I think
come
it's pretty
back.
cool.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I think I got a little smarter about my podcast and have I got Birdman mic'd up as well. And if you haven't listened to the episode, you guys need to listen to last year's episode. Actually, turned out I got a message quite a bit about you coming on the show and how people love that episode just because it was just wild stories and just a good time.
Yeah, man, you got to do a part 2.
I thought it was maybe prosecutors looking to get some cold cases off their desk.
Cliff notes. Heads up, we did come this time with our lawyer.
Yes.
That's good.
We have our attorney.
We have attorney with us, and we have security over here behind you.
Was it John, right?
No,
you can speak up, man. It's all good.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
We came deep this year, man.
Yeah.
We tested the waters last year. We came heavy this year.
We
I
rolled
think-
in
I'm
good
sorry.
numbers.
Yeah, big numbers this year.
I was gonna say I think it's gonna come to the point where I'm gonna have to put up like 20 microphones when I interview you guys.
Thursday is going to be interesting. I told
Yeah,
I told you the premise for Thursday.
Yeah. Really excited about that.
Second wave coming in.
So real quick for the listeners, since you're on the show as well, out of Brooklyn, running a jiu-jitsu gym, Ewok's there with you.
Mm-hmm.
How have things been going since the last year, man?
Great. I mean, we're coming up on 2 years in the new spot, and it's just taken off. It's really good. We're comfortable in the space. We had a year of great seminars, great guys visiting. We had James Klingerman come in.
Yeah.
Dean Lister came in. We just had Alvaro Romano with the Gymnastica Naturale in for a couple days.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yes, we've been killing it with bringing in some what I consider high level guys. to help us out. It's been a lot of fun.
For sure, man.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
It's been really cool.
That's good, man. Something I was finding interesting, and you already drew the parallel with it, especially talking about like the late '90s or early
this
2000s.
is for me. I can't really compete. I mean, say for other people, but that's just how I relate things.
So, what I was gonna say was, I know we brought it up outside the podcast, was last year when we were talking Birdman. Ewok was in the background when I brought up the parallel, because I always see like the parallel between like skateboarding and
For sure.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you just pointed right at me. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Yeah, he definitely gets it.
Yeah, we kind of linked. We linked on multiple things, but
Yeah.
like there's just something about the skateboarding is always something cool when you know somebody was
Yeah.
skating back in the day, because like that was kind of like our punk rock thing
Yeah.
Yeah.
at the time. And you're before me.
Everything I do
Yeah.
in life is based on what Tony Alva did.
Yeah, so yeah.
That's,
So,
he's my spirit animal.
yeah,
He's,
and my spirit animal came
He's
from
soul
that.
brother number one,
Yeah.
and that's everything he did when he was, as a skateboarder is everything I wanted to do as an adult, and I've,
And
following that
my
path.
idols were probably looking at Tony out, same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So like it's just passed on.
Yeah.
So
And Donuses and Gonzes
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all those
all those
guys.
guys.
I mean, these guys were, second generation looking at the first generation. It's
Yeah.
just the same thing. Again.
just evolution for
Yeah, so again, the skateboarding was another thing to look at. Same thing, man. This is like, I don't know. I can't explain it. I did decades of my life where it was like skateboarding, then b-boying, and then jiu-jitsu. And like at each time, it was like pivotal parts of my life that you start at ground zero and don't know anything, but you're fascinated to the point of obsession. And then before you know it, boom, 10 years flies by.
It just takes over your life.
It's like completely takes over your life. And then you meet somebody else who sort of went through that same thing, and you're like, nah, we're buddies because we can relate.
Yeah.
It's like there's certain people out there that are
You've got
on
the same
path.
disease that I have.
Yeah. But jiu-jitsu is cool because you meet a lot of people from different walks of life that I would have never met. Like certain people, lawyers, and
Yeah, it really is
service
wild.
guys, and who knows what else. Doctors and hairdressers. We know all
Yeah,
kinds of people who come to the school.
And especially in like a really concentrated area like this. I mean, I call it concentrated because I don't think there's a real big, outside of the Origin factory,
Sure.
a really big Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community on Echo Lake in Maine, which it descend like everybody is just descended upon here to do jiu-jitsu. Like you said, you got lawyers, you got artists, you've got.
And what somebody said tonight, somebody flew in from like Seattle in a private jet and all this. Like people are coming from everywhere just to be here.
Yeah.
And we got this guy Mac Lethal's here. It's
Sunshine last year. Sunshine.
Yeah.
Sunshine,
Oh,
yeah.
jeez, man.
What happened? He's not here this year.
Do you know he after
came to New
camp
York.
last year he hitchhiked down to Brooklyn
Came to New
and
York.
lived with Troy and his wife for
No
3
shit.
days.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew that pretty much because last year I left on that Sunday because I was living in Germany at the time. I was like, shit, I gotta
I
get
remember
back
that.
home.
I remember that. Yeah.
I pretty much I turned in my linen. I was like, James Hoffman. I was like, I gotta go, man. Can you give me a ride to the airport? He's like, yeah, I got you. Not very happy, but he still hooked me up. But yeah, Tim's doing his thing out there, man. He's
He's
partying.
working. He's working for another restaurant.
Yeah.
But he was working at that really high end one. Now he's like, I think I don't know the head chef, but he's like,
Well, what a good
Big
dude,
deal.
man. What a good guy.
Yeah, he was definitely a entertaining addition to the camp last
and
year.
he's an Orange Fanta guy.
Oh, he is.
He's 100% Orange Fanta guy.
And that's how we know he's good people, man.
Good people.
Absolutely good people. So Ewok, with doing art, and for those of you who have not seen his art, please go to Instagram. Where can I find you on there?
It's Mr. Ewok1, MR_EWOK_ONE. Yeah, check me out. I mean, I do a bunch of different stuff, and
I find it like really, really interesting, especially like one piece that kind of like I see a lot that you did was the brain with the smile, and could you give us a little story behind that, or like how that come to you?
I guess I could dive in. It's got levels to it. So I used to do this thing called Art Basel, which was like this big trendy thing that was going on in Miami every year.
Yeah.
And I did it about 6-7 years in a row. So every time I would go down, it's like this big art fair. All the major galleries in the world were like coming into town and spending all kinds of money to like showcase their little group of artists and whatnot. So I wasn't involved with the gallery side. I was more like, why am I going to hang my stuff in this little gallery when I can just blast murder all these walls in this like small neighborhood? So I would go down. I had just so people know, I have a paint sponsor in Miami called 004 Connect. and they have a paint company, an American paint company called Evolve.
Okay.
And these guys had showed me love since day one. So like I have fam in Miami, Wynwood, Miami. These are like my home away from home. I would come down to Miami about a week and a half to 2 weeks before Art Basel, before the sea of tourists flew into town. I would get there early. I would probably spend 10 days straight painting, which is considered hot real estate in that neighborhood, because the minute the sea of artists come in, all these walls get eaten up, and then there's no place to paint. So I would jump in there. I didn't tell nobody. I just show up. By the time these idiots came in Thursday, I had like 5-6 walls running, like on the main avenue, big giant walls, free publicity, whatever I wanted to show. Everybody's stuck in traffic looking at this stuff. And by that time, I'm done. I'm ready to party. These guys are trying to put in work. They're having a struggle just to get like a little corner, like 4x5, to put their little art on.
Yeah.
I got like 2-story walls rocking, solo spots. So a couple years into it, I'm like, man, this graffiti stuff that I love is super cool. This lettering, there's a science to like lettering and of evolution of lettering, but it's a language that only graffiti writers speak. So how do I attach my stuff to be seen by this art world that's interesting enough for them to digest, but my peers and my fans can still appreciate it? So I was like, the character concept of doing like big characters, the general public can appreciate that. So how do I do that to capture this new audience, which is like the new art crowd that may not know who I am, but still stick in the Ewok formula in it? So I figured, let me just do this big character that everybody loves and would appreciate. Oh, it's that brain with the big cheesy grin.
Yeah.
But in the brain folds and matter, I stuck in the letters Ewok, which was kind of like a secondary punchline that you'd get later. And so years after, I'm already worn out and burnt out on this concept. Then people are starting to pick it up. I guess that's kind of how it works. Like by the time I'm sick of it, people are like just catching on to it. They're like, oh my God, I didn't even know it said Ewok in the brain. And I'm like, yeah, cool, man. You know, that's
We just heard that today.
Yeah, someone said that to me today. And it's like, I know the feeling that they get when they see it, because it's like a secondary punchline. Like, that's cool. And then later they figure it out. So it was my way of sticking in the graffiti for my community that appreciates that kind of stuff, because they always want you to keep it real, and they hate when people step out of those graffiti boundaries to try something new. But I had to try and find some formula that could hit the new guys but still feed the old guys. And like, no one's really doing that shit. You're either pissing someone off and making someone happy, or you're making them happy and pissing somebody else off. So I was like, how can I find this middle ground? I had this opportunity to be in front of the spotlight in Miami. So that's where the brain came from. And in the first year, I think I did like 3 of them, like around the neighborhoods, like in that little 1 mile radius of Wynwood, where all these galleries and people are stuck in traffic. It's gridlock. Like, it was chaos from Thursday to Monday. It's just absolute chaos. So tons of these brains were popping up. And then the next follow-up was like, how is that going to get received? I saw people see it. So the next year I was like, all right, it worked. Now I'm coming back with some other plan. I did a couple more and turned into like a phone app, little emojis, and turned into shirts and stickers. And it's just now, I let it marinate and I come back to it and add something new, and then I put it aside when I'm tired of it, and it's taken on a life of its own. There's like 3D vinyl figures made, limited edition, and it came and went, and collectibles and Comic-Con, you know, limited edition stuff. And
wow.
So it's taken on a mind of its own, and it's always there. It's kind of like my little creation. I have other things too, like a guy with a horse helmet and stuff like that. But
was it Horselington?
Horselington, yeah. So everything was like the link.
Sharklington,
Horselington, you know, Froglington. There's always this thing. There was a little language, and that was another thing too. Like, how do you create something that no one's talking and shit like that? So, but yeah, Brainlington's kind of cool little guy.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Tell us this story.
So John just pulled up a picture of a painting. So I don't know how it started. The actual origin of it, I'm not sure. So
no, Beth wanted you to.
Oh yes,
you.
yes. So I think there was a point where I expressed to John, and I'm sure you spoke to Beth, that I was like, man, it's just hard right now. I'm trying to pay rent and something's going on, right?
Yeah.
So Beth's always been super cool about, hey, what are you doing this month? Do you want to do this?
Beth is my wife, by the way.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay,
sorry
yeah.
for the people who don't know Beth. Beth is Birdman's wife, and so she always seems to kind of hit me up at the right times. She's like, "Hey, I got this idea. I want to do a painting of a portrait of John." And I was like,
For my birthday.
Yeah, for his birthday. I was like, "Oh man," I was like, "I can do it, but I know him so well. It's hard to do portraits of friends because it's like touchy." I said, "What if I do like my caricature version of him, like how I see him, like the mad scientist?"
Yeah.
And so she's like, "Go for it." So I sketched it up, and then she was like, "Go for it. Can you paint it? Can you paint it?" And I was like, "Yeah." So it was like a 4-month project. Big painting. I think it was like 4x3 or something like that.
Wow.
Maybe bigger. I'm not sure.
It might be, yeah.
And so it's my take on him. And from that, I had an idea. I was like, man, I could do this for like people that I look up to. Like maybe I could do like a portrait series. Like I'll do like a Henzo. I'll do like people that I respect. Like all areas, not just jiu-jitsu, but like I could do like artists from New York and people I look up to who I don't feel maybe get the credit. So it's. I have references for other things to do, but the first one was his for sure. So when I do more, I'm gonna have to borrow that and put it on loan in the show of all of them. It'd be like on loan from the Finn
the collection.
Yeah.
Finn collection.
Yeah. But now anyway, it's in the school. It's hung up on the wall in the school, and actually last year I took a ticket, a little stub from the store, and put it on there just because it's something that we know is a personal
It's
thing.
funny. There's a little thing from camp last year, and when Pete and Brian came to shore, Pete's like, "Holy shit, that's my wife's handwriting."
They knew immediately what it was.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
he's
really
like, "It's my
cool.
wife's handwriting."
Yeah, so a lot of my collage material is always like stuff that I find on my trips and adventures, and they immediately saw this one little tag in the chaos of the trim, and it was kind of cool because it came back to me.
We're big supporters of Ewok's art. We have several paintings.
Yeah, they got several paintings up in the house, and
The cat, the sculpture.
yeah. Oh yeah, so yeah, it's a give and take. I mean, they know they can always come to me and get stuff done and graphic design. I mean, that's how we met. I was working on a motorcycle shop in Larry's. Shout out to Bobby and Elisa and
Bobby.
And he would come in, and he was like the crazy jiu-jitsu guy. And I'm watching UFC, and I don't understand. I'm just a fan of UFC. This is back in, I don't know what, 2000 whatever.
Yeah, that was a while back.
And he'd come in, real humble, not and quiet, not really overextending what he's about. And I'm like, man, did you watch UFC? I'm just trying to get him to say stuff. I'm like, there was these guys. They was just punching, and then all of a sudden they roll on the ground like alligators. And then one guy just gives up, and he's like, yeah, he probably like locked them or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's what happened. and then he'd leave, and then he'd come back next month. I'm like, did you watch the fights, UFC fights? He's like, yeah, I watched the fights. I'm like, what happened? Whatever. So I'm like trying to pull out this info because I don't know nothing other than just to stand up and then they fall on the ground and somebody taps. It was a language that was going on in jiu-jitsu I didn't understand, but I knew it was something strategic because these guys are just rolling one way, stop, roll back the other way, and then one guy gives up. I'm like, what is that? What's that language that's going on? It was a mystery to me. Now, and at the time I was waiting for you to open a school.
Yes.
He was trying to open a school in Brooklyn and he didn't have one yet. I said, look, man, I do graphics. You need like a design packet, a logo, treatment, website. I was doing website stuff, photography stuff. I was like, work out a deal, dude. Like, I hook you up. I don't know if you realize, but I'll hook you up. And then, sure enough, you open the school. I was there the first day. Waiting for them to open. Met all the guys that he knew that came in. It's like some of these guys came in that he already had a history with. And it was cool. Like, I know a lot of the guys that are now, like, heavy-duty black belts. And when I saw them, they were, like, purple belts and brown belts and stuff like that. So it's nice to grow alongside people that I sort of seen in my, those early memories, like day one. You never forget certain things.
Yeah.
And, like, those guys are sort of still around in the mix. And, we built a lot of friendships with the family. And there's people in the school that even though they move out west or they move away, it's like we all still sort of stay connected.
Yeah, they're
and
always,
stuff like that.
always chiming in, always talking about it.
Yeah, and it's like when we don't see people for a while, I'm like, hey, you heard from,
so-and-so?
Nick out in Cali, or you heard from Joey and stuff like that. So it's a little network. We got like a fam, and then there's new people coming in. And
So shout out to Nick Alafrangi and
what's up, Nick?
NorCal.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, stuff like that.
No, I mean, it makes sense. And
And we're meeting new people coming out here, man.
Yeah.
Second year, it's dope to see the same people coming back. Man.
yeah, I'm hooked with it.
I look forward to this, man. I love coming up here. It's so beautiful. Get out of the city to see this.
On the first day, someone said, Birdman, what are you doing here? So-and-so told me
You're
that
in
you were in
jail."
jail. You were in jail.
Which is probably
How did you get out?
which is probably just from some rumor because he just acted in a movie with the guy from Star Wars. What's his
Oscar
name?
Isaac.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac from. He was in a prison cell. He was like a lifer dressed up in a prison.
Really?
Death row inmate, yes.
So that probably was the rumor that got out.
shit.
Like you were in a prison scene
Yeah.
or something like that, and that was probably what it was.
We're gonna have to save that story for a couple.
We will
days
save
from
that
now.
story for another day.
Because like my curious, but there are two things that I kind of wanted to really like get to hear about, because I know one of the things we were talking about was like trying to remain anonymous as a graffiti artist, and then but still you have that level of fame and that level of acknowledgement.
I know exactly where you're going with it.
Yeah. So like, what are some of the difficulties you found with that?
Well, here's my thing. When I was first coming up in graffiti, I was a little kid. I didn't know anything about it, and I just saw this world of like these mysterious people that come around in nighttime and they write on things, and then the sun comes up and they're all gone. Like, and my idea is there was just this mystery of who are these guys that are running around in the city at night? They must be crazy. I was a teenager. I was like, who are these guys that feel so comfortable? This is the 90s again. It was a Wild West.
Yeah.
And I would come down from upstate to the city, and my friends would DJ, buy records, and I'd go to like the graph shop, buy like magazines. And I would just take rolls of photos. And I'm like, who are these people, this mystique? And I would see the same names around. And now I'm starting to build a little database. And I'm like, wow, this guy's over here, and he's over here. And you start to build up this mystery in your head of like, he must be like this. He must be this like guy that's crazy and he's not scared to walk through these neighborhoods and stuff like that. So the more I got into graffiti, I realized I'd meet people and they're like super, like they don't want to give any information out, because back then it was all about house phones and beef with people. Like guys were getting hit with hammers. It was bad.
Shit.
New York City graffiti.
Golf
clubs, cue balls and socks in the back pocket. Like this is the shit I came up from as a teenager. Like my first few times painting in New York City, I had a bat in my sleeve, the little stadium bats. You can't even carry them around anymore. And I was nervous as hell. Like, am I gonna have to pull this out on somebody? I would literally paint with my left hand, and in my right sleeve was a stadium bat. You can't even get stadium bats.
No, they don't get them out at the ballpark no more.
Yeah, so this is me painting in the Freedom Tunnels with a stadium bat as a little nervous teenager from upstate New York, painting in the city with like a little pack of fucking kids. And there's people come. This is the thing, like everybody had beef in the New York City area, different boroughs. And the thing was, if you ever bumped into other writers at like a fame spot, they'd go, yo, what you write? And it's like, oh man. So now you have to either say who you are and find out if you have beef with this person right there and then.
Right.
Whoever they are with now, you're about to get in a fight with like 5 people. Or, worst case scenario, they're gonna be like, never heard of you, and just walk off. And now you look like a sucker because you clearly aren't doing enough work. Some dude just clowned you from Queens or something.
Damn. Yeah.
So it's like and I'm a kid, right? So this is what I came up from. So aside from the hardcore beef side of it, you just didn't want to like have these interactions with other writers. So the mystique carried for about 25 years. And this is across the board, not just me, this is everybody. And now we're in an era of social media and people like posing in front of like artwork with their face. And it got a couple years back, this real Hollywood kind of, I say Hollywood because it's like, that's the mecca of like, you know, egotism and all that. But like, there was an era where people were like, screen print release on Friday, so-and-so artist. And you're like, oh, where? Let's see what he's up to. And it's just a picture of him. And I'm like, well, where's the art? What the fuck happened to the art? Now it's just this guy wants to be a superstar? Go act. What are you doing graffiti? You want to be famous? Go be an actor. The graffiti is like a secret world. And so, and then fast forward, now Banksy's coming out. This was like an era when Banksy came out. And right away, he reaffirmed the whole mystery of it all. Like, he came out knowing who it was. And we're like, yeah, this is nothing new to us. We've been doing this for decades. But now all these, like, housewives in Orange County who want to buy this art and show up at a show with, like, Brad Pitt, and they want to know who Banksy is. He could be standing next to you. Who's Banksy? And it's like, this is nothing new. We've been doing this forever. Not to be mysterious to, like, buyers, but to not get fucking cracked in the fucking head with a hammer by somebody. This is what it came from. So, but we also, again, you got to recognize I'm not trying to be secretive. To me, there's a beauty of the mystique.
Right.
The Bruce Wayne, the Batman, and all that. So, like, again, I mean, it can't last forever. So I'm just rocking it as long as I can. And at some point, I may have to come out I guess you could
And
say.
if you send $5 to Birdman BJJ in a self-addressed stamped envelope, I will send you his true identity.
Yeah, or at least some sort of code ring
Yeah.
to decipher.
Or just the name that I
$5 is
think
pretty
of that
cheap just
day.
to sell out. You know what I'm saying? But
Buy now.
But so yeah, the mystery thing to me was just a fun thing that I loved. That was one of the main things. One of the reasons why I loved it was just it was a mystique behind it. But again, I could hide in the jiu-jitsu world, and people know who I am. Because if you puncture the jiu-jitsu world, you earn the credit to know who certain people are.
yeah,
Same thing with b-boying. I used to be a b-boy for a long time because that was a way to kind of go out and still be social and enjoy life, but not be stuck in that, like, nobody knows where you are in
Yeah.
graffiti. You're in a b-boy world. And so it was weird because I would jump into like a b-boy circle, like a battle, and like once in a while someone would be like, yeah, Ewok. And I'm like, oh shit. My instinct of graffiti would kick in. Now I'm like hat down, trying not to be seen.
yeah.
But I'm like, fuck it. Like, what are you going to do? Hide from everybody?
Tell him that MTV shoot we did.
What do you mean?
You know, when you rolled with the...
I don't know what you mean. MTV shoot.
Remember the video they did for the...
Oh, for the brain?
Yeah. When you rolled, you had the
Oh,
luchador.
yeah. So, yeah, that MTV Global. Sorry.
Okay,
MTV.
sorry.
Okay, yeah.
So MTV Global, I think it was their 30th anniversary of MTV, but here, you guys know in America, it's not really that big anymore.
Yeah.
So I guess it's big. MTV Global is bigger than it is everywhere else. They still play music and not just some housewives show.
I'll say, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still rocking the MTV classics and throw it on
No,
there.
no,
Like,
me
oh,
too.
REM,
Yeah,
awesome.
by all means, that's the thing. So they came to me and a couple of others, I think like 5 or 6 artists, and a couple of guys on the West Coast, some people I never heard of. And they came with these MTV, the letters, the logo MTV letters, big 3D vinyl figure, or actually it was just vinyl. And they had us paint these MTV things, and then they wanted to come do a little background video. So they're like, well, what are you into? You just want to capture like a day in the life. And I was like, well, you can come to my house and see where I'm in my studio, and then I'll probably go to jiu-jitsu. They're like, what? Yeah, let's do that. So now I'm like, all right, now I got to film this. How am I going to get around this? So we put on like this luchador mask.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I couldn't
That's
breathe.
awesome.
And then so
that's
I'm
not
rolling-
awesome. Never mind.
So I'm a blue belt. I'm a blue belt with a mask on, can't breathe. I have an incredible respect for the luchador dudes now because I couldn't breathe in the thing. And I'm with.
And it was spray painted black.
Yeah, it was spray painted. So there's like remnants of like spray paint. And I'm rolling with a high level black belt who's not. Don't get me wrong. You want to have a nice little video clip, but this guy's not giving me anything. I'm like happy if I can even like move the knee out the way for a guard pass, and then there's no way I'm gonna settle into side control.
Right.
So I'm hoping that they're gonna capture some cool video in post production. Like, but
We had
it was
some
cool.
fun. We had some fun in that.
But I was dying of heat, couldn't breathe. I'm like, okay, you good? Anyway, so yeah, so that was cool. So we did a video. So I don't know, you can find it online. But it was cool. We went to the school. It's actually the old school. Where we're in a new location now, but it was cool. It was edited pretty well, and it was a nice way for me to be able to include him in some stuff, which was kind of fun.
That is really cool.
Yeah, I had no idea. You're like MTV. I'm like MTV. I'm like yeah. I had to
There's
think.
so many different MTV channels
Yeah,
now.
but no, but this was actually for MTV Global, which apparently got seen all over the world. But New York, I guess we didn't fucking get the memo. But I actually found the video like 3 years later. I was like, oh yeah, FYI guys, here's the video. Everyone was like, what? When did this happen? I'm like, yeah, a long time ago.
Forgot that you were on.
Yeah, I'm already a purple belt. I don't want to show this blue belt footage. It was funny. It was cool. Yeah.
So going back a little bit, talking about like being the Bruce Wayne of like,
Yeah,
like
I
these
mean-
guys doing that type of stuff with Banksy, and you're talking about the mystique of it, right?
Right,
You bring
right.
back this mystique. You bring back the oh shit, who is Ewok?
Yeah,
and only a certain like privileged few.
Yeah,
know.
you want to keep the circle tight, you know?
Did he kind of bring it back out into like maybe mainstream, or like what was Banksy's real impact on it? Then?
It's funny you say that because a lot of people don't know, because he's got such a team behind him, PR marketing, lawyers, money, royal money behind it. You only know what it's brilliant. Don't get me wrong, it's genius. But it's also nothing different than what I could do if I had that team behind me.
Right.
So Banksy, in all due respect, was a 90s graffiti writer. He did pieces just like me. He did he's from England somewhere. I'm not exactly sure the demographic where he's from, but he did pieces just like me, just like a lot of us did. Somehow he caught a little wave where this is my understanding, at some point you could Google Banksy graffiti and see a lot of his graffiti and his street art. And at some point, his little team said, oh, this is a bad look. We can't have this old stuff out there. So cease and desist went out to all the graffiti websites. Yank it, yank it, yank it, yank it, yank it. All this stuff has to come down. And there was a certain point where now when you type in Banksy, it's only street art. So graffiti writers don't have the power to do that.
Right.
So moving along, people are paying attention who want to pay attention. You're starting to see things that are happening. It's not some lone wolf guy running around at night. There's a team behind this. There's
Like
PR
when he
marketing.
made the fake 10-pound notes with Princess Diana's face on
like
it. That's
anybody,
counterfeiting.
Anybody else would do that would be, the door would be kicked in. You can't do that shit. This is all, but again, like you're talking about manipulating an image and putting out a picture of what you want people to see. That's fine. I'm cool with that. So, but don't get it twisted. It's not some one guy running around in the dark, luckily getting famous.
Yeah.
Like, it's a squad.
I remember watching this because I was kind of intrigued by it as well because
and he knew the value of being mystique,
Yeah.
so it benefits him. I'm cool with that, but don't get it twisted. It's not just one guy running around. He's got a fucking when Brad Pitt and Angelina show up at his first art show in L.A., it's because someone's pulling favors to get these people to show up in L.A. and take pictures.
Right.
It's not because they're fans. They probably had no clue who the fuck he was the week before. But, whatever. That's management and PR and all that crap.
No.
And then there was a certain time where some guy put up a picture, Banksy, a photo of him doing a thing. And then, boom, by 4:30, that guy's cease and desist, and the pit bull lawyers are attacking the guy, and immediately the picture comes down. Graffiti writers don't have that power.
Yeah.
This was like royal money backing some artist trying to get him blown up. First show was in L.A.
Yeah, make him big and whatever. Yeah. No, I hear you. Sorry about the background noise, everybody.
Cool.
We actually were, the other North Carolina podcast, BJJ Campaign, is out here as well. So we're sharing a building at the moment. And it's actually kind of interesting that we have so many podcasters in one camp. But
there's a lot of cool motherfuckers in this one camp, so it makes
they
sense.
really are, man. Like with so I guess going on with the more of the street art that you're talking about, do you feel that kind of maybe doing like what he did, it kind of just denies like your roots, or kind of covering up the past is like,
I look at it like this, like when Pharrell came out with like the bathing ape and the skateboarding thing, a lot of the true hardcore skaters in New York were like, this guy's a poser, he's fake, he doesn't even skate, he's got all these skaters in his video. And sure, as a purist you could say that, but then again, like overall, this one rapper guy, Pharrell, introduced skateboarding on a commercial level to the world in a way where I used to get chased through the hood on a skateboard, literally chased, having to skate fast and getting rocks thrown at you. And now all of a sudden, I'm in the hood walking and black kids are rolling by on skateboards. So that didn't happen by itself. Like, it took an outside force like Pharrell to introduce skateboarding to this culture. And now all of a sudden it's global. So that's kind of cool in that sense. So if you look at it like how Pharrell brought skateboarding as a culture up as a whole, everyone rises. So the same way Banksy, the purists are going to be like, fuck that dude. Yeah. But now you got, it sounds cheesy, but like now you got housewives in Orange County who are like buying, I can't afford a Banksy, so let me go and buy an Ewok, because I heard he's the next kind of best thing to buy. Whatever. You know what I mean? You get it? So, like, as a whole, you can be bitter that one guy is the top dog, but, like, as a whole, like, nobody's buying a Rothko or a fucking whoever from the 80s. They can't afford it. They can't touch that. It's just in collections. They're realizing now the new Keith Harings are the graffiti writers of this era. So these guys are jumping on it now because they know in 20 years these pieces are going to put their whole family through college and buy houses and stuff. So as a whole, the Banksy thing brought everything else up. So, and people can debate whether it's a bubble or not, and there's always somebody, like, the scene changes, but somebody has to kick the door in, and then who else can get through the door benefits. You know what I mean? So I see both sides of it. I'm a little mature in the sense where I can see both sides. The old me in the 20s and the early 30s, I would have been like, fuck that dude. Yeah. Bitter as hell. But now I'm like, I get it. I see it all. I'm a little more broader in my approach to things, and I see it all, so.
Yeah. It's Betraying the art type thing.
Just to put it out there, I'm Team Robbo, if anybody else knows what I'm talking about. Banksy and Robbo, I'll be on Team Robbo all day. So there's something else we can talk about another time.
So with doing graffiti now, as far as finding your space, you're talking about going to Miami.
I don't even do that no more. That shit got so commercialized. It's like Lipton iced tea is like stealing walls and having it make it look like graffiti, but it's like...
It's iced tea.
Yeah, it's iced tea. It's like, get the fuck out of here, dude. And I'm at a wall, and I'm painting, and I turn around, and some guy's putting a bottle of water on my ladder and taking a picture. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, bro. You ain't using me to advertise your fucking water bottle company. Like, get out of here, bro. And I was like, this is it. Last year, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'll come back and just hang with the fellas. I'm not doing this shit anymore.
Word. Where do you find your inspiration for a lot of your pieces from?
From my peers. It's weird. Again, I can relate it to jiu-jitsu. You like who you like, and you look at who you like, you know. For jiu-jitsu, you look at the certain people who are still around all these decades, probably years, like Hadra Gracie and Jacare, whoever you're into, you're looking at them, well, they're doing all this stuff. I kind of like what they're doing. We're sort of all looking at the same stuff. I'd rather subscribe to that than this fucking other shit. And there's a whole sea of people looking at some other shit. Maybe it's whatever 50-50 crap that we weren't really into at the time because of rule sets and IBJJF rules. But like, I was like, I can't relate to that. I'm gonna look at some Jacare, some Hadra, some of this. So for graffiti, yeah, it's anybody can do it now. The paint is like, there's no dues you gotta pay. You just buy some paint and the caps come with it, and we had to go hunt for caps. You didn't know what caps were. Now there's 50 caps for everything. You pick up, if you're a talented artist, it just takes a month to learn how to spray paint now. This shit took forever to get good at spray painting. So if I'm now looking at what inspires me, it's a very small pocket of stuff, man. It's generally my friends, like Totem 2, my crew, Ewok. There's an incredible amount of people in my crew that's just so talented, that are sharp as a blade, to keep their razors sharp. Frontline, like, so I'm fortunate to know on a first-hand basis, like, who the top dogs are. And, spent, years, like, being able to paint next to these people, pick their brain, talk shop, and, their approach and things and stuff like that, and now it's branched into more of a fine art and large scale, like murals and stuff like that. But the graffiti, to me, there's still the lettering and the development of lettering I can get with my homies and still paint and have a whole day just hanging out, shooting the shit with the guys and stuff like that. But, inspiration's hard, man. You go through ups and downs. I've been burnt out like 8-9 times throughout the years, and you just find a different approach, Think back, like, well, what did I love when I first got into it? I'll spend a whole year just trying a different angle of something else that I loved as a newbie, like as a beginner, and find a whole year of new styles. So maybe like in jiu-jitsu, maybe you're doing like a certain style and you realize, I'm tired of that. Let me look back at what I really loved when I first saw it.
Yeah. That
weird shit where they're rolling around, what was that? And then you'll spend a year trying to do that, or whatever. So again, it's all like what you can relate to things. I think a lot of things are relatable.
Yeah, I find that interesting because, like, you talk about that, and I kind of look back at some of the stuff that I do, at least in jiu-jitsu, with, like, positions and moves that I really like, or, so I always somehow go back to, like, really just painful knee slice guard passes, just because that's how I got started, and then just...
You probably saw someone do it, and you're like, wow,
that is cool, and, like, you see the guy's face, and, then later on I'm like, I'll do, like, Toriano pass or whatever, blah, 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 but then I go back, I'm like, what did I really enjoy doing? Yeah, it sounds kind of fucked up, but, like, I really like just driving knees across thighs and really getting into
dominating
it. Yeah, so, I mean, that really does make sense, and,
you can always go back to the roots and question what caught you. What was the thing that caught you? And for me, it was like graffiti. Yeah. The mystique. Like, I'm a little too put myself out there, back it up. Go back to the Bruce Wayne Batman shit.
Nice. Spend
a year when no one sees your face. Or I mean everything's blurred anyway.
Yeah.
But I do recognize, like, I'm getting sloppy. There's a side shot. I'll go back and delete it. Make sure, all right, from now on, everything's going to be tight. Face is going to be covered, and there's going to be a little bit of an eye. But I don't care no more. If you know, you know. Who gives a fuck?
Has anybody ever figured it out?
Yeah, man. People figure it out. I mean, there was a time when I painted so much in the streets that
Yeah.
all you had to do was just catch me at a wall. And then
shit.
so people would come up to me and be like, "Yo, oh my God, you're Ewok," and like, that's what I like. You meet me face to face. There's an interaction. We get to have a little laugh and we smile. And I meet you face to face. You never forget it. And I'll meet that person again later. But that's what it's supposed to be like. You sort of have a little bit of an idol, and then when you meet them, and if you can tell they're genuine, and there's an interaction that no one's gonna ever forget. And if they're cool to you, you're always gonna be cool to them. If they're a dick, I'm a dick back. So like, through the years, like if you met me and they're like, that guy's an asshole. No. I was an asshole because you were an asshole. I'm just reflecting what you're giving me. And that's also jiu-jitsu shit too, man. Like,
Yeah.
but I've always been like that. Like if someone comes up to me and they're super genuine, oh man, that's the best reaction you could ever get. Because now we're cool for life. And like if you're an asshole and you're like a little standoffish and you got a little attitude, I'm over here. I got stuff to do. Talk about me all you want. I'm not worried about that.
Awesome.
So you meet somebody, like you always meet people. If you're in New York and you're around, there was years I was painting on the streets a lot. Now I take that out of the equation. A little more mystique to it. If you catch me, you're lucky. That window's closed. You know, I don't even paint much in the street anymore. Unless it's personal and it's in the middle of the night.
What, doing the bat way?
Yeah.
Thing,
And I'm just keeping the physical fitness tight.
Yeah.
Stay sharp.
Maybe more like, I see more like Spider-Man, maybe.
Yeah.
You know,
Spider-Man, a little bit of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What's up? I met Spider-Man. That's cool. I feel like
maybe Venom, a little more Venom. You know.
So Ewok, I really do appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah,
Birdman
man,
as
thank you.
well. Always a good time hanging with you guys. Like it's you guys are here for the whole week, so I was super thrilled when James told me like, yeah, they'll be there for the whole week. Fuck yeah, dude.
I'm glad we did this, bro. I appreciate it.
Me too.
You asked me the other day, like, you want to do the podcast? I was like, really? All right, yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Like, we did a podcast. Like, let's do it.
Because James actually got me onto it. He was like, dude, you know who that is, right? I was like,
that's funny. Yeah, I met Mac Leasel tonight.
Yeah, dude.
So I met Mac Leasel. He's a, for people who don't know, apparently everybody knows, but we got to talk, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm an old 90s Raucous Records, like, 90 New York guy. He's like, yeah, I know who the fuck you are. I know who the fuck you are. I was like, is that Ewok who I think it is? Oh, shit. So, yeah, no, it was cool. But, yeah, there's people here. It's pretty dope, man.
It's really awesome, man. And, like I said, just having somebody like as talented as you are, and then having Birdman as well on here, doing the little flip-flop thing like we did last year.
Yeah,
man.
It's been awesome.
You got to get that guy Mac on, man. There's so many people here, man.
Yeah. I'm going to try to jump on.
You got to get Dean up in here. Man, there's so many motherfuckers in this place right now. It's like a little...
It's a mecca.
It's a vibrating bowl of energy right now.
Yeah, that's why I tried to do like one a day last year. Because
get Dean listening here. It would be even dope to get Marty on here, man, just to hear what the hell he has to say. He's out here tomorrow, but one of our guys is like a pretty interesting character.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I'll snatch
Marty Party 1.
Yeah, Marty Party 1.
So I know you gave the listeners your Instagram where they can find you.
Yeah,
where else could they find you?
I mean, if you're on my Instagram, you can find my website. Whoever uses websites anymore, but I've had a website up for about 18 years. It's like a little history of all my stuff, and that's all you need. Instagram tells you everything else.
Word.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Check me out. Cool.
Please do. I encourage it. It's awesome artwork.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Anytime. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Member of the Pod Bros Podcast Network. Don't forget to go to podbros.com and find yourself another podcast you want to listen to, and check out our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company, Tape Armor, and Rolls Gear, and find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com.
Yes, sir.
I'm Rob, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Ewok!